Jaxson Dart, Mike Green, and Darius Alexander. 3 hot names coming out of the Senior Bowl. We're going to break them down for you today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate you all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply.
Joe, what are your thoughts on the Luka trade?
Kyle, I'm not
seems to be all anybody ever talked about all weekend long.
Listen, my prevailing thought with that was nothing. I don't need to check my phone in the middle of the night, and I checked my phone in the middle of the night to go, like I use the restroom. And I got into this trade, and I'm like, you know how many times I check my phone in the middle of the night and there's nothing happens? And you know what I mean? Like you just move on, you use the bathroom, go back.
You were meant to process this in real time.
Well, listen, I don't need that. I don't need that opportunity to exist. It's going to make me want to check my phone in the middle of the night when I need to get back to sleep.
Yeah.
It seems crazy to me, Kyle. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think the whole thing seems crazy. I'm sure you feel the same way. Does anybody understand this trade for the Dallas Mavericks?
The GM, who called Luke about 20 times in the middle of the night, and Luke didn't pick up any of his calls.
They got beef. Obviously, those guys have beef, right? That's what this is about.
Yeah,
But isn't there an owner? Isn't there somebody here that there's a voice of reason?
What's really funny for me was watching like people, I guess casual fans, like blaming Mark Cuban, and I'm like, Mark Cuban sold the team like 2 years ago. It's not his fault. Like, don't get mad at him.
Somebody owns this team, though, right?
Right. Yeah.
The whole Jason Kidd thing, like this guy couldn't have been happy about the deal. I don't know, man. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And it will forever, for the indefinite future, it will be the barometer of like a bad trade value in return.
Right, especially because this deal that just went down. I don't pretend to follow the
Aaron Fox deal.
Yeah, whatever that deal is, you know.
And they get a lot more than what the Mavs got for Luka.
I thought about the Carmelo Anthony deal. I'm like, boy, this doesn't even come close to that. How do you not have the bidding war of a lifetime here to go after Luka? Where you just have a phone call with the Lakers, say, that sounds good. We'll take it. Come on.
This is how you know it's a bad deal, because we own Draft Dudes with draft prospects with a quarterback on deck. Spent the first 3 minutes getting into Luka.
Get us going, girls. We're gonna get in trouble. That's not
all
good.
Right. So
that's not what we promised the listeners.
3 hot names coming out of the Senior Bowl, as Joe Marino mentioned. Quarterback Jaxson Dart, Ole Miss. Pass rusher Mike Green, Marshall, and
Darius Alexander.
You know what, wrecker Darius Alexander, Toledo. His position is not defensive tackle. It's blank wrecker. And this is a family-friendly show, so I can't say what's on my mind there. We're going to get into each one of these 3 guys here today, starting with Jaxson Dart, who his agents are working overtime, Joe, because all the insiders that don't do draft analysis suddenly have draft analysis takes in which they're saying this guy might not only go in the first round, but be QB2 in this draft class.
Yeah, I remember in 2017 being offered money to say things about prospects. Anyways, I didn't do it, by the way, for those, and we've referenced that a few different times on the show. But can we just be real honest about this? Jaxson Dart's a hard evaluation for me.
Yes,
he's very hard. Like, I can watch Jaxson Dart and I see, he's got pretty good size, 6'2", 226. There's a baseline level of arm talent. There's even some nice throws down the field. There's the ability to run the football. And, I mean, there's some impressive runs. I mean, sometimes he catches an unsuspecting defense, but sometimes you're like, man, that's a really nice finish to that run. I definitely recognize, some of the appeal that exists here. On the other side of the coin, though, like, my prevailing thought when watching Jaxson Dart was my goodness, this guy's going to be playing a completely different game next year. Completely different, man. He does a really good job of taking advantage of isolated scheme matchups and throwing a nice catchable football and trusting his receivers. But man, like, you just don't see a lot of tight window throws. You don't have to see working progressions. You don't really see a lot of second reaction stuff. You don't really see him handle the pressure well. So I don't know, man. Like, this is definitely a player that if I were to have convictions about him, it would come from after spending like legitimate time with him and understanding, where he's at mentally, what he's capable of. Has he ever had a set of protection? It's just there's a big jump ahead, while I can at the same time kind of recognize why anybody would be reeled into the evaluation. He's just going to be a hard evaluation for me.
Yeah, he does have good physical tools. And I really admire his toughness in the pocket too. I think that there are times where he's willing to stand in muddy pockets and deliver throws under pressure. But the decision-making and accuracy in those situations is not particularly strong. So it's okay. We're willing to work tough pockets. We can access most areas of the field. We are a good athlete. He's got good ball handling skills for play action passing. What's interesting about Dart is he was one of the first evals that I did like the full write-up on this season. So it's obviously been a large separation and watched a lot of football players since. But as I assess where he's at, where the buzz with him is at, and where I was at when I did the write-up, I still fully, and it's not always this case as you watch more players and you normalize your opinions because you watch more quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Like, I went back and reread everything that I wrote, and I'm like, I don't think I would amend anything that I wrote in here. And I have him as a fringe top 100. I think he's more of a developmental quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So this offense at Ole Miss, I mean, you talked about setting protections. Joe, most of the play calls, they want to be able to run plays like this.
Yeah.
As compared to you put him in a traditional West Coast offense and all the information that he has to handle. And that's where it goes to, if you're going to have a lot of conviction with Jaxson Dart, it's going to be because you spent time with him in meetings and he's showcased that his aptitude and what he's ready to handle from a pre and post snap basis is dramatically different than what he played at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin.
One of the most influential things that you've ever said to me in this journey that we've been on together in scouting players and producing content has been looking at what we do because of the information we do and do not have in the seats that we are in, is looking at this as a risk assessment. Okay, taking everything that you can piece together about a prospect and then measuring it against norms and then saying, all right, well, based on the risk and the potential, like, where does it make sense to really value this prospect? And I think when you apply that through Jaxson Dart, I think you can definitely talk yourself into, okay, there's a baseline level of physical upside to do the job. But based on the transition that's ahead for him, where do you feel comfortable valuing the skill set? And it's not just the system. Like, we've seen players come into the NFL from comparable systems and have success and not have success. And I don't like invoking the name Bo Nix as a player that you would look at and point to and say, you know what, there's, obviously an experienced player, but, kind of a scheme that doesn't translate really to the NFL. But at the same time with Bo Nix, I did see a little bit better of a player under pressure. I did see more second reaction from Bo Nix. So it's not the end all be all, but the point being is, like, when I do that risk assessment thing with Jaxson Dart, I just come away a bit uneasy. And would I be unsurprised if he winds up being a decent starting quarterback in the NFL? Sure. But I think based on the layers of the evaluation from what we know, I have a hard time saying, you know what, man, this is definitely a guy that I want to hitch my wagon to and really believe can be, a franchise quarterback for me.
Yeah. I think part of the challenge too is in this draft class of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He's going to get pushed up. It's, I'd be really surprised if it was the eventual QB2 in the class. But if you told me he went the top 50 picks, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. But isn't it so much different if we're talking about a guy that somehow is even a mid-first round pick versus, somewhere in the 40 to 50 range, like a Drew Lock? It's okay, cool. That's great. You like that. nice little dart throw. If it doesn't work out, there's no big deal. When you pick a quarterback in the first round, it sends a big time message, right? Can he pick it goes in the first round? Like, this stuff happens. I get it. Like, I would be unsurprised by anything you would tell me about where he ultimately goes. But I think he's definitely a hard guy for me to say, you know what, plant my flag, stand on a table, say this is a guy that I think is going to absolutely step in and be an answer for some team at quarterback. I don't find myself eager to get to that position.
Yeah, I think you need to come in with a plan for him. And I think that plan needs to be pretty rigid and don't fall into the temptation that I think a lot of teams fall into if your rookie season. I don't think he's based off of what the offense is that he's played in. Is it beneficial for him to play early? Probably not.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, plan accordingly.
Yeah. Cool throw when he rolled to his left, though, man, and launched it down the field. That was a heck of a throw.
It was a heck of a throw.
Yeah.
It was a heck of a throw, and Zach Wilson made it on his pro day, too, right?
All right. Jaxson Dart in the books. Mike Green, edge rusher, Marshall. We're talking about him next, folks. Be sure to stick with us. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can actually help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to get those qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say that LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh, 251-pound Mike Green, by the way.
What was the story about that? Because I don't like that's a good number. That's where we're happy with that.
We're happy with this number. Yeah, he was a verified measurement in the spring at 236.
Oh, okay. So we were teetering on, is this Nolan Smith 230 something?
Correct.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a big deal.
And the Senior Bowl, they put out some graphics when they announced like the teams and what assistant coaches were working with, what position groups, and they had like the verified. If they had verified measures from the spring or whatever, they would have them on there, and people saw 236 verified for Mike Green, and everybody lost their minds, thinking that it was like an up-to-date measurement for him because this was like 2 days before weigh-ins. And then I think Trevor Sikkema heard from somebody, because I was with him in Dallas when they released these graphics, and was like, hey, that's a spring measurement. You're going to be a lot more happy with his official weigh-in at the Senior Bowl. And he came in at 251.
6'3", 251, 32 and an eighth inch arms.
Mm-hmm.
We can work with that.
Yep.
So now I understand
all the thresholds.
Yeah, I understand that conversation. I guess you don't look at him on tape and think, wow, this is a big old hulking defensive end, right? But that's this 250 is a nice number. I wonder where he'll be at the combine. He didn't. I mean, you saw the body type there. How'd it look? I mean, you look like he was
looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was strapped together really, really well. And had more, both him and Izuraku I thought had more mass through their core and trunk than what you would expect when you saw them in pads. So both of those guys I saw up close, and I'm like, okay, they're a little bit more dense throughout their body than what I think a TV copy or a couple 100 feet in the air camera angle gives them credit for.
Not to get crazy, but did you feel that way when you saw Von Miller as well in person? Like, yeah, there's some thickness here that maybe you don't appreciate from, like, because he kind of, like, if you just look shoulders up, it's like, all right, this is kind of a slender guy, but then it's like, oh, you got stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The good picture to paint there. he's a really fun player. I mean, you want to talk about burst and bend, cornering ability. I mean, it's really high level, dude. Like that ability to reduce and just get around angles. If there's any softness to the angle, dude, he can get around it. I think that's the prevailing thought in my head was, my goodness, burst, bend, the flexibility, the ability to turn, corner. He can get around edges, man. There's no doubt in the world that he can do that.
Yeah, and I actually think he has a really, really robust bag of counters at his disposal too. So when you're looking at pass rushers, it's two things. Does he have a hang your hat trait? And I think Mike Green does when you talk about the burst and the bend, right? Yeah. And it's just the ability to, and it's 6'3", low center of gravity. So that already gives you an advantage, and you have a smaller strike zone where tackles that are 6'6", 6'7", they're going to be punching down on you already. That's a hard place to be in, a hard world to live in. And you have the bend to reduce the inside shoulder and provide a very small strike zone. That makes him a handful as his marquee trait. But then you have inside and outside spin counters, cross chop, two-handed swipe, rip and dip, speed to power, bull rush capability, swim move. Like he's hit all of these in live action successfully. So I think when you see how well he crafts his rush plans, that plus having a way that when in doubt, I'm just going to go back to this and I'm going to be able to win with it at the NFL level, makes him a very dangerous prospect.
A lot of missed punches on this guy.
Yeah.
And for a guy that's going to be known for that pass rush upside and the traits that go with it, he's not a nothing player against the run either. And he's certainly more of a stand-up player that's going to benefit from playing over tight ends and that type of thing. But, you know, he's a guy that doesn't just sell out and just rushes the passer. You see him, you know, backside, get down the line of scrimmage, be parallel. You see him take on pullers with wrong arms and being willing to, you know, stick his nose in there and not allow himself to get whammed into oblivion. You see some ability to set edges. You know, there's not a nothing profile as a run defender here. I don't know that I look at him the same. I'm going to bring back Nolan Smith because I thought Nolan Smith was an excellent run defender at Georgia. I don't know if I go there, but I think it's definitely a player that he's not going to be drafted for his ability to defend the run, but he's also not a guy that I think is a lost cause.
I had Alex Highsmith down.
Okay, so I wrote down 5 names. And
was
the reason
Alex Highsmith one of them?
He's one of them.
Okay.
And the reason I wrote down 5 names is because I wanted to like identify the blueprint. Like, how many different ways can this type of player matter in the NFL? And I wrote down 5 names. They're not all perfect, but I wrote down Jonathan Grenard, Alex Highsmith, Nick Bonito, Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
There's some pieces of all of that baked into him. And based on the way that those guys have been used and the production that they've had, it gives me a lot of confidence in a player like this.
Yeah, you're talking wide 9 as a hand in the dirt player. You're talking odd front linebacker as a rush linebacker. I think in an under front, he could play some Sam for you and be up on the line of scrimmage over top of tight ends. I think if he's going to be the best version of himself, what I think could really help him, and you're drafting him to rush the passer, right? Let's want to be abundantly clear that's where his maximum value is going to be. But if he's going to be his best self to fully diversify his profile, how many coverage snaps do you think this player had as just like a quick dropper across 1,000 snaps over the last 2 years?
I don't think I saw many in the games I watched.
Yeah, it's about 20.
Yeah, I did Ohio. It was Ohio State, Southern Miss, and Louisiana Lafayette. Was that the other one I watched? Yeah, I don't think I saw too much of that.
So that being for some of the names that we invoked, that is an element that those guys at least have like a little bit of, for whether it's simulated pressures or if you're on your base fronts and you want to manipulate what way the center turns and try to get advantageous numbers away from wherever the center goes. Like if he can develop a little bit of that, I think that really makes him like a true chess piece and not just, dang, he's a really, really good pass rusher and a better run defender than what we give him credit for.
And reading up on Mike in advance of this conversation, I saw more than a couple of times some reference to the Virginia situation, like where he was on that team, and then I don't know if there's anything concerning or not, but like even Lance Zierlein in his profile said his transition from Virginia is something that needs to be like vetted. Like I don't know if there's anything there to be concerned about or not, but I guess that's at least something that I've seen brought up more than once.
So he was a 3-star recruit who played both linebacker and tight end, committed to Virginia, played in 6 games as a true freshman in 2021, spent the 2022 season away from the program for unspecified reasons.
Yeah.
And then entered the transfer portal and committed to Marshall. So what the dynamics are there is something that each team is going to have to do their own exploration on.
I wonder if that aligns with Bronco Mendenhall and kind of his very sudden departure. I don't know if that timeline lines up, but he'll be asked that question a million times. So he'll have an answer. If teams like it, it'll be no problem, or it will be. I don't know, but it's at least worth mentioning in part of the conversation. Okay, yeah, he's good. Panthers. A Panther be a great pick for the Panthers.
Great pick for the Panthers at 8.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they were looking for a pass rusher. It'd be a really nice selection for the Carolina Panthers at number 8. Mike Green, the Marshall edge rusher. All right, we're gonna go to Toledo here. Darius Alexander. Kyle, thanks for picking him for this podcast today. We'll talk about him next. Be sure to stick with us. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players' projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. And Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes needs only 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you are cashing out. This week, I'm looking at the board, and I'm selecting more on Travis Kelce's receiving yards and more for Patrick Mahomes' passing yardage. And what I love most, it's fast, safe, and secure withdrawals. When I win, my cash is in my account in as little as 15 minutes. So check out the promos tab. You can tail any of the super sweet Millie winners, big game lineups. And if you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Folks, maybe you're looking for tickets to the next big event, maybe a last-minute ticket to the big game next week. Whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless tickets listings. I've actually been using the Game Time Picks feature for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat. I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. And the seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It is so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I think some of my favorite Darius Alexander stories are things that I was obviously down the Senior Bowl with Dante Colinelli, who works with me at the 33rd team. And he talked to Darius. And he asked Darius, who is a 6'0", 304-pound defensive tackle from Toledo with 34-inch arms, right? So he's 6'3.5", 305, 34-inch arms. Asked him about his experience thus far at the Senior Bowl, and he got better every single day. And part of the reason why was he said how he used the practice tape to really cultivate his individual pass rush plans for all of the potential guys that he was going to go against in practice. So he had the first day of practice, and then he watched the practice tape and set rush plans for each one of the guys on the team that he was going to get a chance to rush against in practice, and then did that and got better every single day.
That's called being a pro, man.
Correct.
That's good.
Correct.
That's good. Yeah, man, what a fun player he was to watch. And so the first game that I watched of Darius Alexander, I had like a raw all 22 file, which means I had to watch every play, right?
Mm-hmm.
To find the ones where number 9 was out there. And let me tell you, not a big fan of these other defensive linemen that they have.
Yeah, no.
Boy, they were rough, which really highlighted how good Darius Alexander was. It's easy to see the power. It's easy to see the athleticism. It's easy to feel the impact. Like he's clearly the best player on the field when Toledo's out there. I thought he was a really technical player. That's what I really enjoyed about him was, this isn't just a big, strong, athletic dude that's going up against, I don't know, I'm watching against Akron,
Yeah.
Or Miami of Ohio. He's not just a dude that's beating up on them. There's a technical component to how he was winning and beating blocks. Very, very active hands and, a really good feel for blocking schemes and how to counter and get to the right places and beat blocks, man. I was very impressed with how technical he was to complement the easy to identify physical upside that exists with him.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning too. I mean, he was a 3-star recruit as a defensive end talent, but then when he got to Toledo, he redshirted in 2019 and was on the roster as an offensive tackle, and then came back to defensive tackle.
Wait, what did you just say?
He's on Toledo's roster as an offensive tackle in 2019.
Okay. And then he switched?
And then he came back to defense. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And not a lot of people do, but like there's quotes for a couple stories out there for people like with the program. They're like, yeah, people forget like this guy was playing offensive tackle when he first got here.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I went back and thank God all the people that splice all the Senior Bowl tape together. I went back and was able to watch all his one-on-one reps and like, this guy's winning from like wide alignments, like cooking dudes.
Yeah,
man.
dude, we are rushing against Josh Connerly as a wide 9 alignment rusher, and then simultaneously cooking folks on the inside from every possible alignment angle that there is to line up and rush the passer from.
This guy's a dude, man. This guy's a dude.
Member of the Bruce Feldman's Freaks List.
Oh, just keeps getting better. Tell me about this. I didn't even know this either.
Credited with a 400-pound bench press, 30-inch vertical jump, and checked in over 20 miles per hour on GPS players.
Oh, baby. 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Is he old? What are we missing?
He's a 6-year senior. So he was a tackle in 2019. And then the COVID year happened, which nobody lost any eligibility for that. And then 21, 22, 23, and 24. So he's a 6th-year player. If you want to get into the minuses that exist with Darius. I also think there is a conversation to be had about the production profile. Although you mentioned the other defensive lineman that Toledo has on the roster, he got a lot of extra attention, right?
Right.
Now, right. If you're going to nitpick or if you're going to critique, you could say, I think there's some pad level consistency stuff. And I think the longer that a rep goes, I think he kind of loses some of his leverage but you see lock, peak, shed, teach tape. You see penetration ability, the alignment versatility that exists here. I think his his consistency is the biggest question that he has, because frankly, he's fully capable of being a totally dominant game wrecker on every single play.
Yeah, I wrote down tall and laid off the snap at times. And then I mean, maybe there's a consistency component, but like, I find myself pretty comfortable with it. I mean, especially when you started to talk about just like, he's not really always been a defensive tackle, and the pieces around him just, they don't really, they don't help him at all.
Right.
And
it's not like Quinyon Mitchell, where like when Quinyon Mitchell's playing man coverage out there, it's
man coverage.
It's just man coverage.
Yeah.
As compared to being at the mercy of the entire protection scheme skewed towards you, because you are the rusher amongst 9 bodies playing in the core.
We have production profile questions about a lot of these defensive linemen this year. Not Mike Green. What do you have? 17 sacks
last year,
23 tackles for a loss.
Yeah, no, not with him.
Yeah, he's good to go. But Shamar Stewart and Walter Nolan and Darius Alexander, now I guess he's in the bucket. I have no idea what his production was, because
I think he had 7.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons, I believe.
All right. Okay. He'll have more than that across 2 seasons in the NFL if he's the player I think he is.
Yeah, he had nine career sacks in 5 seasons at defensive tackle.
Okay.
Do you
go ahead and push him down. No, I didn't see it was a bowl game. I tried to find it, but I could only find the broadcast tape.
Brother. He has an interception in this game that goes 15 yards for a touchdown.
I should be able to YouTube that, right?
Yes. Just your authentic reaction to this pressure look, drop off into shallow coverage underneath, and then what he does with the ball in his hands after the fact is what really makes this play. I can't believe you didn't catch the full game, although I understand why if you didn't want to watch TV.
Oh, okay. Here it is. It's a thick 6. Here it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully the volume's not on. All right.
And we don't want any copyright.
Oh, he's dropping into punt coverage.
Hold on.
Oh, he makes that dude miss, huh?
He hurdles a guy.
Yeah. All right.
Then goes 58 yards for a score. I actually thought the Pitt game was his best game.
And I missed it. I liked him. That guy, I mean, buddy, you just gotta push him out of bounds, man. Why are you diving at his knees?
He's sitting here trying to chop him low.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work, bud.
Did you have any names for him? I am very leery that people are invoking the name Chris Jones.
Yeah, don't do that ever for anybody. I actually went through, and courtesy of our lads, I love their ability to sort depth charts in the NFL by position. So I sorted all the defensive tackles, and I went through literally everyone in the NFL, and I said, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I just don't. I didn't have anyone that was just like, you know what, I really like that comp. I think this is a player that can play up and down the line. I want him attacking. I want him penetrating. I think I think he could be an impact 3-tech. I think he could play out to the edges a little bit. Unique athletic profile.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't feel like anybody that I said it didn't tell the right story, in my opinion. Or it was too aggressive.
I kind of liked Muhammad Wilkerson.
I had thought about it. I thought about him. I did.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like it a lot more than Chris Jones. I'll say that.
Chris Jones is like a first ballot Hall of Fame defensive tackle.
Right. You get really leery with
it's just
comps like that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe there's some Fletcher Cox vibes.
Yeah, there you go.
So those are both really good, productive NFL players that aren't first ballot Hall of Famer Chris Jones.
Yeah.
So that's going to do for us here on the show. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, 3 more prospects in the books. We got a great week of programming coming your way. So make sure you guys come on back and see us again tomorrow. That's going to do it for us today. We are out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll talk to you all again soon.